right. So, we are live. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Factorio. Let's click resume so that we can get into this. So, when we last left off, we were over on Vulcanus, and we had this setup here, which more or less works to make these legendary quality iron plates. Now the downside is that we are not fully using this recycler, and even if we could fully use that recycler, then we wouldn't be able to fully use this assembly machine. So what we need to do is somehow figure out how to scale this up. Now, it's not that inefficient, right, in terms of how much is being used. So this makes 2 per second. This can make 12 per second. So it is pretty inefficient. So how is a Spidertron being damaged? Is this guy just sort of standing here in the middle of nowhere? Okay. Sure. Oh, right. We were actually in the middle of setting up a drone port connection thing down to make another artillery outpost to specifically prevent this exact thing from happening. So let's run down just a little bit down this way. I don't know exactly where we're trying to go to, but somewhere in this general vicinity ought to be good. So let's get the Spidertron down as well. Mining productivity, our research is finished. Let's see here. Laser weapons damage always can use a little bit extra. Don't mind that. Alright. I think we'd probably just go like one further down from this. It's annoying that the Spidertron isn't the one building it. So let's dismantle that and get that built in. So at least we can see where the next one has to go. Okay, so this goes down here. Spidertron comes down and places it. And power lines connected up. Now we set up an artillery outpost. Where is that? There you are. And that can be just forwards a little bit more to there. The further forwards you go, the more of the map gets covered. And then we can just have the Spidertron go in and handle most of this. And then all of this should get built up in due time. There we go. So now this is powered again, and it's just letting the power trickle through. Or is it not? Okay, apparently we needed that. We were missing one power pole, which is not great. Okay, so now all of this is built except for the artillery turret and this one random grabber, which I guess just upgrade you. Okay, so this is now all built except for the artillery turret and that one power line. So that should be cleared, unless biters attack like right now at this exact moment. We should be fine. And now the power is in, which means that that's all cleared. Alright, so that's good. Problem solved, although we're still somehow missing the artillery turret. We've got 10 of them. All right, no, it figured it out eventually. It just took a little bit. That's fine. All right, so back over to Vulcanus. So the problem with this loop is basically we need more fresh material input. So all we need to do then is figure out how to get more of this piled in. So if we just... How much is this? This is 11.9 out and this is 16. So the foundries are actually the limiting factor here. But there's not all that much that can be done about that. So we are just going to expand out another couple of those and get the pipes in. And then what we need is a belt for these guys to carry across that doesn't pointlessly go underground like that, and then connects up to there. Meanwhile, this has to be input priority right in order to work. And then these are going to need outputs. Alright, so now we have 6 fresh iron chests going in, which is going to equate to like 9-ish total, I think. So this should still work. I'm going to have to pay attention to see how this scales, but we can just scale this further down the line, just like copy and paste this setup a bunch of times. Okay, let's make sure that this gets used, because we've got a decent chunk of valuables in here. So let's just like very quickly, temporarily bring them over to here and then under and then into there prior to the splitting. Alright, so that is now having problems with this whole thing going through correctly. Okay, so the problem here is that this just naturally prioritizes these ones instead of these ones because of just how this bulk inserter works. So we actually need to flip which side of the belt all these things are on. So first of all, that one has to be back here so that it's properly in this section. Then we are going to need to take all this stuff out and rework it a bit. So this needs to go up and... Okay, that power line needs to go too. I hope we have space for this. So you need to go like that while you go in like that. And I believe that should just do the trick on its own. So now all this stuff is getting favored. And we're doing all this. And it's looping around and seems to be working. Okay, so the next question is, how do we scale this? Also, we need to get a power pole there. So the next question is, how do we scale this? So we have our input line, which can just go across. And none of this stuff needs to exist anymore. So this is basically what we have. Now, if we just pop another one of these in over here, then that probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Let's see. If we just copy paste from here, and like this is as close as it's gonna be, right? So that goes into there. Fulgora's support just ran out of ammunition. How has that happened? Genuinely, how has that happened? Okay, so this is where the ammunition goes in here. It goes across that way. Yeah, I don't know why that's happened. I guess we just need these to go faster. So if we just plop those up. Now you probably don't... Okay, you do actually have the resources on board for those upgrades. So that should increase that. You look like you might even need a second inserter to get it all out. So now we have more ammunition being crafted, and it should be in the clear now. Alright, so that was weird, but whatever. Now the problem here is that this one, each one is sort of independent entirely. I would like to make them use the same stockpile if possible, but I don't know how practical that is. Just because the way this setup works is very much like this chest needs to be completely direct between the assembly machine. So, I mean, it is working. We have 32 iron plates there, and this one obviously not getting any input, so that's not gonna do anything. Alright, so for example, we might want this belt here to loop back into over this way. It's not terrible that it works the way it does actually, because it sort of limits the amount of total throughput needed. So let's just see if we just do that, then apparently that box didn't get copy pasted. So this all works, right? Like now we have both of these and they're both running. And they're both perfectly happy to be doing their thing. Now, what we need to think is, I guess, I mean, I guess this is probably fine, right? We just like expand this, we just expand the input belts out. We expand these out this way, and this seems like it's dramatically more resource efficient. Although currently we are not, currently we don't have enough modules here. So can I at least get these in so that something is happening for now, unless we don't have those either. Yeah, we don't have those either. Okay, so you get disabled because we don't want to just be blatantly destroying stuff here. So those get disabled and upgraded. Now, I could have sworn we would have more of those things. Which one of you was doing that? Was it any of you? No, it might have been transport platform. Yeah, it was transport platform, but you are currently over Vulcanus with nothing to offer, so you can head back to Novice. Now, while we're here over Novice, let's check the supply of legendaries. We've got 25 legendaries of those, and we've got 12 of those. And then if we check up here for our secondary thing, we've got another 33. So yeah, you are going to swap that request out for those. You're going to swap that request out for those. And actually, you're just going to go up to 50 of those. And then I believe I had read somewhere that, like this... Oh, right. This is not an intermediate product, so it can't be used that way. That's unfortunate. So, I mean, this works, right? It always prioritizes this one because of just how the inserter functions. And it's just going. Let's see, we're actually getting a lot of value out of this top row. Like, there's a rare just direct from these, which is kind of funny. Okay. Why do we now have fewer of those than we did? Like, I literally removed it and then put it back in. And now it doesn't see any of that at all. It might just be a delay. It's probably just a delay. We have 20 of those. Oh, and we have this thing over here now. So this is all built in, and we are missing a couple. If I just make you a substation, is that going to... That should catch all the ones we are missing. Yes. So now that whole thing is set up. We've got our laser weapons damage upgrade. Next, we will do... Gosh, I'm sort of picking at random. I guess health. I can't imagine ever using that, but it's relatively cheap, so we might as well. So someone in here is supposed to be delivering fusion power cells to Vulcanus, and it just has not happened at all. Oh, you're not requesting fusion power cells. That would be why. So we pop that request in, and we should be good for there. Oh, I see the module got sent down to this one. Okay, we need to clear all those out so that the module gets sent back into the active one, and then we can do that and have it work out. Alright, so this transport platform is on its way back, and then it has to make the loop around again. So this could be a lot worse. So how many do we need for this? We have 8 per batch. So this is 8 and 16. Plus however many we need to get these running properly. It's kind of a shame that the Iron Chest blueprint doesn't work with productivity modules, because that does mean this is less efficient, although it's probably fine. Resource efficiency isn't really the concern, because we can just continue stacking more of these guys on as long as we need to. So yeah, transport platform is slowly making its way back. Now, I feel like this is almost scalable, but not quite. So what we're missing is... Actually, no, it should be fine, right? Because the more of this that we have, these chests are eventually going to be the limiting factor. If we continue to have this work like this, although I guess, are these bulk inserters not fast enough? Do we need a second bulk inserter? And then we're just going to also place one there. The filters in these aren't actually necessary. So now this recycler is going faster, and it can output a max of 25.6 items per second, although in practice it's a bit dubious. And then this one can use a max of 16 items per second. So this does actually pose a bit of a problem, which is that the recyclers are faster than they need to be for this setup, and the assembly machines aren't fast enough, which means that this could conceivably, and yeah, it looks like it is actually, very slowly accumulating more iron plates than it can get rid of. And that is going to cause this whole thing to break. So what we need is somehow we need to get a second assembly machine per recycler. That way, basically we want the limiting factor to be the input to the system, so that it's never internal to the system. So we need to first of all pick all of that stuff up, because I think we're going to need that space. And then we need to start moving stuff. So we need to get a second assembler onto this. And really that's like the crux of the entire thing, is we need to be able to scale up the number of assemblers available without breaking things. So each assembler needs to have access to its chest. Okay, can you actually... Can we just set both of those to not do anything, just so that this whole system can pause a little bit and not overflow while I think this through. So first we have our whole decider combinator set up, and that's obviously some of those guys aren't within power range anymore. Let's do worker robot speed. That'll get those guys moving a little bit quicker, which should be nice to have. And meanwhile, transport platform is here, and you have 42 quality modules with apparently another couple on the way, so that will be handy to have. So we need each of these individually to have their own chests. Okay, so what all we need to do is we just need to have the recyclers and the assembler set up as two separate things. So each assembler can have its own chest, which will fill up to like a certain volume of each item and then send the rest down. So what we have would be something like this, right? Where, so yeah, something like this, where this chest will only be allowed to store like up to 100 of each, and then if then this bulk inserter will deactivate. So Actually, is it that simple? Because it would need to, like, read what's in there. It would need to read what's in here, which isn't ideal. Let's think. We need this to work out. So it needs to read what's in the bulk inserter and then turn it off. Okay, actually wait, do we need like... No. How do we fill these chests up, but only to a certain extent? I guess we just have like I guess we just have these guys like extend off, so this chest then also feeds into a belt this way, which then feeds another chest. I'm trying to like get this to stack properly. Does this work? Can an inserter feed another inserter? Because we don't have space for a belt in there. I think it should be fine. So we have something like this. Now each of these inserters here will be set to just drain the excess. So if there's more than however many of each item in this chest, it'll send it down to this chest and get that one going. Alright, now... But if we're doing it that way, then... Is the whole system where these even do all of the separate things even necessary? Let's think here. It might be. It might still be, but what we could do... Yeah, okay, I think it is. So, we get this whole giant configuration per each one, which we're going to want to compact this then, and also get it working better. So let's think. All we need to do is read from this chest into some set of combinators and everything, which then feeds into this assembly machine and then changes only when the assembly machine isn't active. So there's got to be an easier way of doing it than this. So first off, let's think. We have like plenty of space for this, right? Because these can expand however they need to. Actually, first let's just confirm that this thing even works. So if we have a chest, we have an inserter there, powering an inserter there, powering a belt, right? So we just have something like that. And why is this fast inserter waiting for source items? There's items in that box. Interesting. Okay, it figured it out now. And none of this seems to be working. Okay, so that's a bit of a problem, because it means that we need... I mean, it's not a huge deal. We just need a little bit of space then. So it needs to be something like this. And then we just leave the one block, and someone pick up that so that it's not lost forever. So we have a setup like this, which feeds all the way down to here. And so first off, we need this. So we get a decider combinator in, and I don't think that is necessary because all the things are going to be running down this way. So this decider combinator is just this one, because this is just necessary for our storage, right? So this one is definitely necessary to store the value. Then we need this to... Can we actually be more clever about this so that we can fit more into here? Going on day 20 billion of staring at decider combinators. So this needs... Maybe it's just an and symbol? Is it that easy? And check is greater than 1. Then you output everything. Oh, wait. Maybe check equals 1, but then you need to not store the check mark. So we have this, and this should store all of our stuff except for the check mark. But then as soon as the check mark goes, this stops storing. And then we need some way of making sure that nothing new goes into here while it's storing. So we need another decider combinator to check... Okay, wait, I think I know, actually. If we do something like this, and you are, if anything is greater than 0... No. You are if everything is equal to 0, then you output... Wait, hang on. No, that doesn't work. So we need this to check if this is storing anything, then this doesn't pass its signals through. Oh wait, I think I know. So you need to be everything on red is equal to 0, and then you also have the input from this. So this is the selector which decides what we're doing here. And we also have this decider which filters it down to greater than or equal to 8. Okay, but I think we can actually fit that into this. Maybe? No. I think we do need this to be in first. So we have our selector combinator. This feeds into you on green. So if everything on red is equal to 0, that means this is empty. And that means that you output everything with a signal value of 1. So that will be the thing you get from the selector combinator. And actually, wait a minute. Can we do this simpler, actually? Yeah, I think we can do this simpler. So you output anything. And you do and anything is greater than 8. So the first signal or the first signal that passed all conditions, which I think should work. So we have that. Then you output your thing. This selector combinator is copy paste from there. And it reads from the box, feeds to here, which feeds to this storage. Alright, let's get this connected in. So let's say this box is what we're doing here, and we need power poles to power these combinators. So you have your input signals, and you're not doing anything. Oh, wait. Is that because that's connected up on red and not on green? That could be it. So if we connect you up on green, you have input signals of 49, 5, and 3. We have quality signal, set target signal. Wait, why? Oh, we also need this guy just randomly. So this gives us the iron chest signal. Where is that? The value of 1. So now you are outputting that. No, wait. Is this wrong? Yes, this is wrong. Okay. So we do need the other decider combinator to filter before we go to the selector. So we have our decider combinator here, and then we disconnect that, connect you, paste those settings, and send that through. So now you send out common iron chest. Oh, wait, no, this also doesn't work. But that's fine because we're scanning for it earlier. So now you output that. And you now don't store anything because it's not working. Okay, how does this work? You are going to need to be connected up to this via green signal for now. So you're going to be set recipe, read working, control signal of check. Okay, so this has the problem that it won't do anything unless... So this won't store anything unless this is doing its thing. So if this stops working for any reason, then the whole system stops. Also, I just realized we should be sending transport platform. Forgot to tell that to move. Okay, so this won't store anything unless this is already working, which means we need to add an OR here. So, how does this work? So we need a way to basically just boot this up and give it its first thing. So how do we tell if that has no recipe? Read recipe finished. That's not what we want. Do we just like do the opposite. So this... No, because this needs to store its thing while this is working. But then we also need to set something... Alright, so I think I figured it out, maybe. So we need another output up to here. And you need to be basically the same as this, except if check equals 0, and you don't interfere with that at all. So now we have this one, which is outputting something if it's not working. This one outputting something if it is working. And then we need another combinator. This is so much more complicated. So we need to read like from you on green. So if anything, and you are going to be connected up to you via red and to you via green. So if anything on red is greater than 0, no, this is convoluted and dumb, right? So how do we do this then? We're so close. But now this one, so this one just stores whatever it wants to store, but only when it's not working. So does this, if you hook back into there, no, definitely not. So what's happening here is that this is saying less than or equal to 0. Oh, you need to be connected into yourself to store properly. Now if you go back to there, then you have your input signal of green. Okay, but that does set this. So this is set, and now if this were to start working, then hopefully this would switch over to the other version. Maybe. So what we need basically is we need to read from this one to set the recipe while it's not working, and read from this one to set the recipe while it is working. And how do we do that? We need just like a selector, maybe? So we get another selector in, and we read from you and from you. And where's this? I think that connection needs to not happen. So then this is select input and let's see here. How do we do this? So none of these solutions work, do they? Count, random, stack size, quality filter, quality transfer, no. See, it says based on criteria, but like it doesn't give any meaningful criteria. Like it's just an index is all. So this has input signals of 1 from there, and this one is doing nothing. Okay, wait, no, this is fine because these two are mutually exclusive, right? So yes, I think actually this is fine, and you then connect back, and this should all work. Now what I need to do is I need to cut and paste this in a way which fits into our space constraints. So that is all pasted in, and it should work, probably. Okay, now we disconnect from there, connect up to there, and I get that. So now this is theoretically infinitely tileable and should work, but it doesn't have anywhere to put its outputs yet, which should be relatively trivial because its outputs are all just going to merge up and do something. So we're going to have the outputs merge up like that way. And okay, so we can set this, and all of this is going to be fine. I guess that power pole is in the way a little bit, because we need all of this to fit within this 4 wide area. So we blueprint this, and we're going to call this variable assembler. Wait, I just realized we need our quality modules in there. So let's pop those in, and we can send them down as well so that they actually exist. Okay. So those are landing. Now we can copy this, and the fact that I've never tested this is certainly a decision. But if we just like tile up a second one in there. Okay, I've just realized I forgot the important part, which is controlling these steel chests. So we need stuff to do that, which means, hooray, even more combinator spam. This should be relatively simple. Hopefully we can just do this with one. So you are going to be filter each is greater than 100 outputs each with a value of 1. Okay, wait, no. There's another thing we want to check too, or just like the very specific case where it's the iron legendary plates is greater than 0, then it outputs that, and then that goes into here to set filter. Okay, so now we just need to go to our inventory and delete that blueprint that we just made, and instead blueprint this as variable assembler, which is sort of a misleading name for it because it only does the one recipe, but we might be able to scale it to do more. So this all goes through. And now, if we just feed iron plates into this first steel chest, it should all cycle through and work. And this first one has a setting already because of weirdness when it was connected up to here, but that's fine. Probably. Okay, so now we need to do the rest of this. So we have our supply of chests here. Those go into recyclers. The recyclers will then output into just a belt. No need for a chest here. So let's take all this stuff out. We're going to leave this stuff in case we want to go back to it later. For now, at least, until the new version is functional. So that just feeds directly into there. And hopefully works. And if we wind up limited by bulk inserter speed, which we are pretty likely to do, then we can just split this into multiple rows so it's a whole block instead of individual rows. But let's just get the individual rows working first. So, anyways, let's take all these belts back a little bit. And so we have our fresh chests coming here, which we do actually want to force those up on the top row. And then we have these chests, which for now at least come down this way. Alright, so this should work. And obviously we're going to want to expand our recycler availability in the future. But for now, take these guys off of use filters. And, alright, so yeah, this does not work. Cool, cool, cool. So, first step is to do that. Because that's just always going to be necessary. So we go output priority, left, filter iron plates. And then we're going to need to get all the rest of these iron plates off of the belt. And then we're going to have to figure out where we went wrong with all this. So, I mean, it does occasionally make one. So this first one, yeah, let's make sure to chop that off while we figure things out. So this first one, it has plenty of things. Let's get those out because those should not be there. It has plenty of iron plates, but it isn't getting its recipe. So you filter out the epics, and you select the uncommons. That's all as we would expect. Then, this is receiving uncommon signals. Okay, is this... What is this? What is this decider combinator even for? Did I set this up wrong? So if everything equals 0, then it outputs all of its stuff. Right, so this only should send things through if this isn't storing anything currently. Now, this... Oh, you need to connect down to here, probably. No, you are connected down to here. So you aren't working. So this doesn't have the signal. Now you have your signal there. And you have selected it. Right, we can see output signal, uncommon iron chest. But you're connected to that and not saying to set recipe. Okay, weirdly that worked briefly. Why is that? You were set recipe, read working. So now you've gone back down to the regular mode. So I think the problem is that this isn't working. So I wish we could like read working and then just set the control signal to whatever that is, so that as long as it's working. Is that an option? No. So I would love to just be able to set the control signal to whatever recipe it's working on and then just loop that into itself so that while it's working on a signal it won't change. There has to be some way of doing that, right? So we have set recipe there. So what do? You take your signal, you store stuff, and send it. Okay, I have an idea. Let's design this down here. And let's get the Spidertron closer so that you don't have to go quite as far. Maybe not that close, though. You can stand there. So our first priority needs to be we read the recipe that this is doing. So you are set recipe and also read ingredients. No, that's not it. Read contents. I wish there was some way of just reading the recipe specifically. Like, just like the opposite of set recipe. Like read recipe. That would be very cool if that existed. Alright, so if you are read working with a control signal of checkmark, then this needs to feed back into it. Alright, let's just get a constant combinator in here to see, like, we force this to be iron chests, right? So your iron chests. Okay, but that's just reading it from the combinator. So what if we set you like that? So you read iron chests. You read ingredients are plates. Okay, so we can do the whole quality thing again. Okay, I think this is actually a bit of a breakthrough. So if we get a quality signal down here instead of this decider combinator, right? So this reads the ingredients and is going to be set to quality transfer. Select from signal iron plates, target signal iron chest. So then you also read from that, and your output signal is going to be regular old iron chests with a value of 1, because that's what the recipe is calling for. And so now you feed back into there. And okay, that's... well, that certainly is scaling up infinitely. Now, what if you are that? So you now this has just locked the signal in place as iron chests forever. Okay, so first of all, how do we wind up accidentally making a clock out of this? So we're getting 1 from there. Alright, so this doesn't seem to work at all. Novice lost a wall. That's exciting. Where did that happen? Over here on this corner. Okay, that's sort of nothing. I don't care about that. Alright, yeah, I think this new plan doesn't work, or at least I can't figure out how to get it to work. So, instead, we need to go back up to this system and figure out how to get it to realistically just work like this one. So, this system had worked, right? So, if we just... this constant combination... no, this system... it did, right? It wound up working once we'd figured it out. Although it might not work, like, reliably. Alright, let's get this Spidertron out of the way so I can see slightly better. Not that we can see much here. So this constant combinator, this outputs the signals for this. So we have 65 iron plates, and those are being input here on red and also on green somehow. So you're connected to this... oh, you're connected to the selector combinator and this. So this here, where is the red circuit network getting that from? It's being stored up here. So this is storing that on red, which I think is potentially the issue. So you are feeding that back to here, which means that this is never going to be everything on red is 0. So we need to get you to store that on green, maybe? How is all this connected? So you're connected up, you feed your output to that selector combinator, and you feed to yourself to store. And then you receive from this. Okay, what if that connection is cut? And now where do you even receive from? Now you receive from nowhere. So you are now fed directly from there. So you output a signal of iron chest. Because that's 0, and you're getting an input signal of iron chest. Then that signal is going to this selector combinator, which is outputting a signal of iron chests, which is going up to here, but can't set the recipe because this is all filled up. Oh, and this needs to be any rarity. Alright, so that loops through. And does this work? No. But potentially just because this hasn't gotten anywhere. So first of all, we're filtering these guys down so that they don't put any more outputs in. And then we are continuing to get that through, and you are just cycling around still. Okay, so how do we get this to not constantly be jammed like this? I mean, I think we kind of just have to keep doing this. And you basically only output iron plates. So this is horrifically inefficient. It's hard to see why, but you are like occasionally getting the recipe. You are occasionally getting the recipe though, which is something. And if we just keep doing this, eventually it's going to run out, right? So it just keeps doing this, primarily outputting the iron plates, but occasionally getting some boxes through. And that is no good. Okay, now it's stopped entirely, and that's because there's not enough resources in here. So I want to see what happens with its recipe when we configure this. So instead of this feeding to here, let's get a constant combinator in, and you will feed into there. So let's say you have 30 iron plates. That gets set to those. Now those are uncommon, and it doesn't change because it's locked. Okay, then those clear out. So now this is locked in with that recipe, which isn't what we want. Why is that? It's not swapping recipes correctly at all now. Okay, how did this do it? This did it some convoluted way, but I think at this point that's... I mean, this way has worked in the past, right? Whereas this one hasn't. So let's just dismantle all that and see if we can just copy paste this in. So that all goes in, and then we also need this stuff to go in. So we get our quality module and our decider combinator and our constant combinator. Okay, so the constant combinator feeds the selector. Then this decider feeds the selector. Then the selector feeds this. And then all of this stuff feeds into itself. And then something in here goes back to the machine. What is it? It's the second from the left on green. And... alright, so let's see. It's this one here. Goes back to there. And this one here goes into there. Now I think that's all connected up. I think. And then we need to give it that signal here. So this is connected back to there. And so we do that, and then we clear that, and does anything happen? No, but that might just be because of that not having enough stuff in it. So let's try that actually. So we're going to get you who, oh wait, did we not? Some of this stuff has to be connected into the box as well, and that's part of the problem, which we unfortunately dismantled. Alright, no, I think this newer way of doing it should be able to work. If I just get it to work correctly. So let's get this blueprint. Just build all that stuff back in. And we do need to feed some resources in. And the problem is that it is giving up too soon, which it shouldn't be. So how about this is checkmark just not equal to 0? No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work because we're canceling it out there. So this is specifically equal to 1. Okay, no, if you're not equal to 0, then you have this whole thing. Alright, so now you're storing it too well, which is good. So how about you're greater than 0? So we have all these things in here. We have enough uncommons that it should theoretically work. This is outputting the uncommons, therefore. Then this outputs the uncommons, as does this. So this is receiving those, but it's not storing it because this guy is on red, which we don't want. Alright, so what if we just take that one out for now? So now this is outputting that. Wait, are you just not connected to literally anything except for this back here? Okay, well you're supposed to be connected back to this, right? Alright, now you're flickering wildly. So why are you doing that? Why are you flickering? This is checkmark greater than 0, so that's never true. You are red is great. Oh, I see. Okay. So we just need to make that connection on red, make it on green, maybe? So there's nothing on red, so it's outputting stuff to green. This is receiving stuff, but it's not sending anything through because it's not running. And then we then need this decider combinator to go back in. So this receives the signals from here, right? So we do that, and it has a signal now, and it will... Does this even need to store things? This just needs to be checkmark is equal to 0. Output everything input count. So if it's not working, then this sets it to work. And then we feed you into there. And this outputs feeds up to here. And that doesn't work. Why does that not work? So it like set it and then instantaneously unset it. So let's get more of those guys through. Yeah, so okay, what's happening, I think, is this is setting it, and then so it sets it, which means this bulk inserter takes the things out of the box, but then as soon as they're out of the box, there's not enough of them for this selector, for this decider to pass it, which means that that instantly goes through. Now, in theory, if we had enough inputs stored in the box, then it wouldn't have that problem. Let's actually test that real quick. So we shove a whole lot more junk into here. And the box now fills up with stuff. And then we stop shoveling fresh stuff in. So now this... Okay, yeah, no, it still isn't happy with that. Probably because it's going for the highest quality items, of which there still aren't that many. Okay, so this is still not working. So we did manage to get some through occasionally, if... Oh, okay, maybe if... Let's see here, let me think. We need to set it up. We need to set it up so that this then doesn't change... Okay, so this is too temporary then, I think. So it doesn't even get to the point where it's working. So, if you are each greater than 0, then you can output each of 1. So check mark equals 0, or each thing greater than 0 gets output, right? But that would also include the check mark, so we need to make sure to do that. No, wait. No, that's not right. So I think this has to do it like this then, and then output it to yet another decider combinator, which does the actual storage. So that this can store, so each is greater than 0, output each at input count. So you store it, and then you feed back to there. Okay, so let's see. You're outputting iron plates, you're outputting regulars. That's going back to here. Checkmark equals 0, so this needs to be set to do that. So now we've invented a clock again. So this outputs that of 1. Okay, you just need to be doing that then. So this outputs a signal of that, which still isn't holding. Okay, wait. It just ran a couple times in a row there. But then it stopped and deposited its stuff. Alright, that's closer then. Okay. It managed to run all the way down until this is empty. Now, if we just keep doing this, this continues to just... It continues to just fill up and not work. So it's doing all these things without making a single cycle of them. So, are you now just short-circuiting the entire rest of the system? Yeah, I think so. So now this is just completely failed, so we need to just disconnect that. So now I think what's happening is this. So this has all sorts of things stored in it. But it isn't doing anything. Okay, so this isn't working anymore. This is storing too many things. And so I think we do need this to be the one that stores it. So we have checkmark equals 0 or each and each greater than 0. Then you output anything at 1. So this should output whatever it gets, and that'll never include the check mark because it has to be 0 for it to work. So then this stores like that and feeds that. Okay. So now we have not enough iron plates to feed it, so let's put some of those in, and we just... Okay, so we set it to that, but now it's not getting unset. So this is all trying to do that, but it's not working. So checkmark equals 0. Your input signals are only coming from yourself and from this, which is sending it through. But while it was running, that should have gotten unset, right? This should have unset itself while this was running. I'm so incredibly close to getting this, and yet it seems like I've been incredibly close to getting this for literally like an hour at this point. So if this just removed the old uncommon... If this just removed the old setting, then it would all work, right? And it's currently not doing that. So if we just pop that through, and okay, we need to get some boxes out of the way for this to refill. So once again, we've done that, except, yeah, why? This should clear its input signal while it's running. Right? So checkmark equals 0 and each is greater than 0. So maybe this has to not be each. If this is anything, maybe? No, that's not right. Let me think here. So the reason this isn't resetting is we need this to stop storing its information when the check mark becomes 1. When the check mark becomes 1, we need this to clear out. So let's just feed more resources in. Okay, and now it's done that a little bit. So this has 2 signals. The current one, the previous one, and the next one. But if it keeps getting fed like this, is this actually working? I mean, we're producing a whole lot of things. And I mean, we've made a legendary plate. So this is only doing base iron chests because this selector combinator here. Wait, the input signal here is flickering between -1 and 0. Is this... Okay, this is part of the problem, I think. So this, it's occasionally getting up to 0, but then immediately setting back down to -1. So what if we just clear that part out of your check? And we just feed stuff in. Now this is still just not changing ever. Okay, now let's clear that out and stop inputting new stuff in. So yeah, the check mark of -1 is needed to clear that out when this is done, but the problem is then that's not storing it. Okay, I think that is something. So this isn't storing... The check mark isn't active for the entire time. Wait, maybe if we do not equal to 0, output the check mark of -1, and maybe even -2, then still there. Okay, so -2 isn't it. This whole system isn't working, basically. So this whole system isn't working. We need that to not be in there, but for it to still count. So this is doing its thing, but now the check mark is locked in there forever. And that's obviously not what we want. So, how do we fix that? I mean, the good news is that it's at least staying stable, so it's doing something useful, but it's not doing much useful. It's not doing that much that is useful here. So this is still just... Okay, because this is anything, if that's each... Okay, if it's each, then that just stocks up to all the input signals it's ever gotten and sets that to rare for no good reason when it needs to be uncommon. It needs to be uncommon or epic. So we need some way of clearing these signals out when the check mark changes. Okay, let's just try starting from scratch again. So we have this. We have this whole system here, right? So these guys and this. These all work to determine the exact value, the exact rarity that we need. So this is fine. This outputs just like the highest rarity that we can craft one of. Then, once we have that information, we just put it directly into the assembly machine, maybe. But then... Oh wait, no, I have an idea, actually. I have an idea that should work. Okay, so you are going to read from the selector combinator. So you're going to be set recipe and read contents, including crafting. So that can accommodate those in here. Okay, let's try this setup. If this works, it'll be great because it's much simpler. So let's take all those guys out. Now this outputs those two signals. So what we need now is, instead of this reading directly and only from the chest, we also read from the inserter and the machine. So we read this from the inserter and the machine and everything. So now we know the full contents of this entire setup. We pop you in, and it just works. And it just works. And then when we get to that point where there's only 7 instead of 8, then it cycles them back. Alright, this is so much easier than I needed to make it this entire time. I feel so incredibly stupid. But it works now. So we can clear all this stuff out. Let's move that power pole just for aesthetic purposes. And are all of these guys... Does the constant combinator need power? No, it doesn't. So this setup works, I think. And it's just 1,000 times simpler than I was making it. So we can destroy that blueprint, get rid of that one as well. And then if we just blueprint this, and let's make sure we're blueprinting the right things. So we start on that row and we go over to all of these, but let's get the belts in as well. Then we store this as variable assembler. Make that a blueprint. And now we just copy paste that in a couple times. And then feed the fresh supply of resources in. And let's make that go there. And okay, so this is working mostly. The problem now is that this whole system is just like the bulk inserters are not fast enough, basically. And also, we are still getting like a non-trivial amount of just pointless loopbacks. And basically the bulk inserters can't keep up with everything. Now, if we stop if we stop the fresh input, then this all works, right? So this all goes down. We mostly make boxes with the occasional non-box item, and then it all works. So now what we need to do is set this up so that it doesn't buffer like this past all of these. We just need you to sort of go down like this, and then feed like individual assembly machines from this direction. So how do we do that? We need to have just like one singular belt to rule them all here. Now we need that belt to fit into each of these chests, obviously. And let's deconstruct most of those and then go back to looking at just like one individual. So previously we were stacking this across here. Instead of doing it like this, we have you feed into that inserter, and then you need to be set to be less than 100. So for everything that's less than 100, you send it through. So it has less than 100 of all of these, and then this is set filters, so all of those are filtered onto it. And now, let's see, can we actually do something clever like with this? So like if you were to loop something like that, right, then the next one would go there and would take its inputs like up to there, into a box, and then into that, and then this could just loop a couple times. So what we would have, the box is on the far left. All of this, I think, stacks then. Wait, does it? I think so. Hang on. I have to stare at this a bit more. So if we were to just copy paste this entire setting, then okay, yeah, no, this doesn't quite work. Why doesn't it quite work? It doesn't work because we need this to be 4 wide. Okay, so then in that case, we would still wind up leaving our space there. And no, it still doesn't tile like that. Okay, so that's, can't do anything clever with that. Now, if we were to just tile this downwards, that wouldn't be tremendously space efficient, just because these are pretty long, and we would be building a lot of them, like down that way. We want these to tile across because they're narrow, not down. So, how do we fix that? We can obviously swap around how all of this works. So, okay, if we move these combinators around, that could help. So, we do ultimately want this to be, like, on that row. Now, if this one went there, And this one went there. And then we need to think, see, this one can still go down there, I guess. So now we have to remember how all of these combine up. So you read from the box and all of those places, which I believe is correct. You're showing 43, 25, and 3. Okay, so there's like 7. Yes, there's 8 there, so that's correct. So you read from all of those, you figure out what we have enough of, then you feed into here, and this converts it to the other target, and then you feed into there, which you can't do because that's clogged, so we just need to clear that out a little bit. And a little bit more. Okay, so now why don't you have a recipe? Oh, because this needs to connect up. Okay, so we have this now. So instead of that, this belt would just go along this way and feed you in like that, and this decider combinator feeds down to that one, which is set to set filters, and then that one doesn't need to exist. And now if we copy and paste this, if we copy paste that and put it in there, then it all works except for the power poles, which it seems we've gone just barely too dense to fit a power pole in anywhere. Which is fine, I guess. Although, is this backwards? Why does this have a filter of 0? So this... Oh, because this is just unpowered, right? That's why. Okay, and then can we fit the power poles in like this? That should still work, I think. And this still has a filter of 0. Okay, wait. Is that less than 100? Do we need to feed these with a constant combinator so that it sees at least one of everything? Yeah, we do, don't we? So this one is doing that. Then this should fit into this one as well. If we just pop one of each, maybe. Wait, this might break things. But if we just do something like this, and we don't need to capture any more of them. Alright, so now you have a setting that you can't afford. Why is that? Because you are receiving all of these input signals, right? So we can't do that in this constant combinator then. We need a second constant combinator over here to have all of those signals. And hopefully that will work. And let's get rare plates and epic plates. Okay, then this feeds into you. Okay. I think that might be everything, potentially. Let's copy paste this. And oh, I guess we need that built in technically. Although it needs to be facing that way. So that is that. And then this loops back in that sort of way. Okay, so this is in. If we copy this, paste it over, make sure that they line up. No, something's gone wrong here. This is too far back again. Dang it. Okay, so this electrical pole is just in the way, which means we need better electrical poles. So I guess this has to be a 4 wide pattern anyways. Or like a... I guess we can do this sort of... We could do this sort of pattern which like isn't 4 wide but is close. And just like have them be in these groups of 2s. So... let's try this one more time. We copy paste U to there, and we're gonna leave that electrical pole and everything where it is. We just need to get the new combinator in so that these are all set properly. And now, if we then connect that up, then these should be able to do their thing. And indeed, they are both running like most of the time-ish. Let's get that recycler upgraded, because we might as well. Okay, so this is still not quite keeping up. Obviously, these are very fast. And this one has gotten stuck. So I don't know how you got stuck there for a while. And so yeah, let's copy this whole blob and set that all over. So now we have 4 of these running. And okay, we need now a filter out for legendary to the right side. So that comes down to here and feeds all this stuff in. And then obviously we have to take that random junk out. And then we pick up those just so that that continues along. Okay, so this basically works. I mean, are these filling up with anything? No, they are all doing fine. The recycler is recycling as much as it can, and that's all good. And these are typically not throwing things out. They do occasionally. So why do you think you can do that? It's hard to say. Alright, so this works. It works pretty nicely even. And we are already getting some of those. So now let's just clear all of this junk out. And let's see here. So then the next thing we want is we want to start filtering some of the stuff that we wasted in testing back into the system. So you are going to request iron chests of tier 1, iron chests of tier 2, iron chests of tier 3, iron chests of tier 4, and even tier 5s. And it says maybe we don't have any of those. I would have thought we would, but that's fine if so. So something we definitely have are iron plates of all those various things. So we get iron plates of tier 2s, tier 3s, tier 4s, and even tier 5s. So those can all get loaded in, and Spidertron seems to be the one carrying most of them. So let's clear out all this junk from the Spidertron's inventory, because it is completely out of space. And this can get all of that extra stuff cycled through and into this system, which, oh, I guess technically that is... Okay, yeah, this chest, we're going to disable it so that it can just accumulate those. And then all the rest of this can just go through. Toss out the last couple of those and throw them back into the system. I don't know what's taking it so long to do that. I guess just because the storage is all the way up here, so it has to bring it all the way up here, put it down, and then bring it all the way back. Not the most efficient drone system in the world, but it is working, and everything seems to be going mostly fine. Although it's hard to tell whether we're keeping up or not. Like, we've got these guys down here which don't seem to be accumulating. Okay, now let's see here. How much junk output is this producing? Probably not all that much. Okay. Could we do this without the intermediary chest? Maybe, but it would actually make the spacing a little bit more complicated, funnily enough. It should be fine, though. And we are already, like, we're up to 70 some. We are up to... Yeah, we're actually getting a ton here. This is going insanely well right now, at least. It's like the other things hasn't gone anywhere near this well. I guess that's probably the legendary modules helping out a lot too. Okay, then do we want this to just loop back as well? I don't know. Let's just paste this again, I guess. Just get a couple more of these guys in so that now we definitely have enough to do everything properly. Okay, why... First of all, why are you filtering those? Second of all, how come some of these sometimes do get stuck? It doesn't look like they get stuck for long, though, so like it's probably kind of whatever. So we just leave you like this. And now we can start upgrading, adding another recycler. So let's see. This is 25.6 iron plates. So theoretically, this should all be a lot more efficient than it is. But we're just sort of having difficulties with the bulk inserters not going fast enough, basically. Which, you know, it is what it is. So let's take that power line out. Apparently it was doing literally nothing. And we need to get more recycling happening. Which, first of all, apparently means just more of this stuff. So this one recycler, we can leverage more out of that by just getting more of these guys in. So let's do that. And it's still the iron plates from the foundries that are the limiting factor here. Okay, so what I can do is I can put some more beacons up here, get them powered, and give them speed. So this should be going. I could have sworn I just reconnected this drone port and then I was disconnected again. So hopefully that extra speed will get all this stuff in. So now this is 12.5. Now it's 16.1 and these are 16.0. So this is now like almost exactly correct ratio to go full speed. And hopefully that will work out. So now this recycler is doing its thing. So now we just need to get the recyclers to scale a little bit, potentially. Although, even with that, we're still mostly waiting on fresh chests. Yeah, 12.8 chests per second is pretty dang quick. So these three are 6. We need to leave some breathing room, obviously, for these ones to go, but okay, what we need to do is just probably just flip this system. So if we get a whole bunch more of you, flip you vertically and pop you just like in there somewhere, then all that gets built up. That box doesn't need to exist anymore, so we can expand this back. And now all of these get connected up, and they're still going to be forced onto the other side, so that's not going to be a problem. And then all we need to do is take this pipe down, which, to find out where exactly we can fit that in, probably here. So you can go down like that, and then through to there, and then down to there, and then that connects across, that loops around, and now all of these guys are set up. I don't have their productivity modules here. Does Transport Platform have any spare productivity modules? No, it does not. And we're also missing some quality modules for some of these. And we need some power lines to go in. So one of you is surely carrying productivity modules, just like of the basic varieties, right? Yes, Vulcanist Support 3 is. Unfortunately, it just left 20 seconds ago. So Transport Platform. Let's take those out. Send you back to Novice. And actually, speaking of higher quality things, so we can get those in as well, so that those can be higher quality, and then I think we can do that to have it work. No, we are also... I could have sworn we had deposited some of those. Did we not move them off the platform? No, we definitely sent 20... We definitely sent 20 legendary productivity modules down. Is this... No, this is connected up. Are they all, like... They're not all in the Spidertron's inventory. So where are they? And why am I not seeing them? Oh, I see. We sent epics of the productivity modules. Not legendaries. That's fine. So we just have to go into here and swap those down to epics. And swap those down to epics. And swap those down to epics. Now, why does it still think that they want legendaries? Who can say? Alright, so those are in. Now those are in, and then these ones go in, and we're all good. So, now this has all of the chests that it could possibly use. And somehow... Oh, wait. We need to move that. Somehow this got accelerated by that, which we definitely do not want. What we want is just a second one next to the first. Give you legendary modules. And extend that across to there. Okay, this spacing is actually incredibly awkward. So let's actually just tear that apart so that we can do the spacing entirely differently. So we're going to have our recyclers just down this way, I think. And they can just expand down along that row. And they're still just going to feed up into there. And then... So this is the main belt of freshly produced boxes. So we take these all the way down, and they need to go around into here, and they need to meet up with this row of boxes. Worker robot speeds increased. Very nice. Let's get steel plate productivity, because why not? So we still want to do this whole thing here, where we set the recycled boxes on that side, and the fresh boxes on that side, just so that we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And then this should be able to just sneak down there and go in. Then these get their modules, and they get a power pole, and then we're going to have another power pole back there for the inserters, which can now go in. Not you just yet, because we don't have modules in these ones, so we just got to put those off until the modules show up. Okay, but this is actually backwards, so cut that off. So all of this goes in, and that's fine. However, we need this to, like, go up, and then around, and then down, so that we need everything to be on, like, specific sides of the belt for the priority to work out. It's because we want the near side of the belt from the recyclers to be the recycled plates, or the recycled chests. And we want the far side of the belt from the recyclers to be the fresh chests. So we do it like this, and it all works out. Okay, now the iron plate supply is actually a bit limited. So instead of that doing that, we want you to go in like that. So we're using both sides at least a little bit. And we're still... You might need to upgrade belt speed in order to get these to fit properly. And we also... Reasonable chance that we're going to need even more of these guys in. But this is definitely cooking. We are up to 221 iron plates here, which is honestly pretty dang good. It's pretty good for what it is. And these are mostly running. I think somehow this got mixed up in such a way that it occasionally thinks there's one more of an item than there is. Probably because this gets mixed in there somehow. So, this feeds to this, and it receives it from all of these. So yeah, I think... I mean, it's fine. It's basically fine. Like, I don't think it matters at all. It's never gotten, like, perma stuck, as far as I can tell. Alright, so this is working. And then, okay, I don't have this section in my paste anymore. But yeah, we now have a legendary iron plate factory here on Vulcanus. And speaking, we also need to check this. This looks like it's going fine. I don't see any problems here. These are output full of molten iron. How much is this? 400, 800, 1200, 1600 molten iron, and this is like 300 or so, maybe like 500 that we're using. Seems fine by me. Okay, we do have some valuable stuff on these belts here, but at this point, it's just sort of not that big of a deal. Like, one legendary iron chest, who cares? So what we need to be paying attention to is, are we keeping up here? And I think the answer is yes. So these are almost 20 per second. These are like 16 per second. So this top one is 48-ish in terms of the iron plate usage. This bottom one is 54-ish. So add those two together, we have like 100 iron plates going into this. And it looks like they're capable of keeping up. And these are still mostly sitting at no ingredients, which means that this is the next thing to upgrade. Alright, yeah, I think we're basically good with this. So now all we need to do is just scale it up like crazy. And also set up the returns. So one of you guys... So this is where we set the amount of coal we want to hold. So you hold 8,000 coal instead of the insane 10,000 that you had. And then you are going to pick up legendary iron plates from Vulcanus. And a minimum payload of 100, let's say. but the actual number we want you to take, if possible, is as many as we can get our hands on. And then over on Novice, we can then request those. Where is that? It's somewhere around here. It's this one. So you can request legendary iron plates, 1,000 of them. And that should get that link set up so that our iron plates can travel back to Novice to be used for things like more modules. Because I believe this, yeah, the plastic, we've got plenty. Copper, we've got plenty. This is waiting on iron plates. And by the way, we have no spares of those. And we have very few spares of these. So is our iron plate smelting on Novice even working? No, it's very inconsistent. Are any of these guys stuck? No, they're all going somewhere, and one of them is coming here. So yeah, it's not broken entirely, it's just wildly inconsistent, which is a large part of why I moved over to Vulcanus. Okay, so let's actually officially blueprint this. And call this Legendary Iron. Make that blueprint. And then paste it across, but disconnect that. And we need more selector combinators of all things. Yeah, this is not super nice on the combinator supply. Do we have this set up to auto-request those? If not, then we definitely should. Okay. You request selector combinators and decider combinators. And I guess constant combinators are the other ones that we're using here. So we get those all selected. Now, this over here, I am dumb and I forgot to connect that into the power, so I just need to pop those down. And now we have power. So this should work to provide all or most of the power we need. Let's see, the fluoroketone supply here is 4 per second, which is technically only half of what we would need for all of this. So let's get like one speed module in. How much does a speed module give? Speed module 3 is plus 50%, so I think we need 2 of these in to have this be 8 per second. And fully capable of keeping up. There we go. So now these guys can produce their power. And obviously, as long as solar panels are capable of doing it, it won't run. But this should mean that we never have to worry about power again, assuming that we get enough fuel for it. Which is a little bit dubious. So you don't have any, so is Aquilo broken somehow? Let's check. No, we have plenty of fuel there. You just didn't get it for some reason. Probably we don't have enough launch capacity on Aquilo. So let's get another one of these guys lined up. And then start worrying about how exactly we're going to get anything there. Oh, wait, Aquilo is broken. We don't have enough rocket fuel. How do we get rocket fuel? Okay, so was rocket fuel probably wasn't produced here on Aquilo? Let's see here. Where's rocket fuel? How does it get crafted? Rocket fuel, rocket fuel, rocket fuel. So we can make rocket fuel from ammonia if we wanted to. But I think we just had you, or you maybe, delivering it from Fulgora. So I guess we set you up to store 200 of the stuff, because apparently we don't have enough. And then we need to go to Fulgora to make sure that it actually has a supply of rocket fuel to give, and it certainly does. It's got plenty. And it's got functional rockets. And then let's see, what else is there that we need to check? So Aquilo support 2, you're going to be doing your thing. Bringing that up to Aquilo. Okay, the other thing is we need to actually successfully craft our second launcher. So you need to start requesting some stuff. And then we will be able to see what we need. There's a whole lot of stuff which we're going to have. And this... we need a bulk inserter in there. Apparently we don't have any. No, we do. It just took a while for it to find it. So we can load that up with concrete. We need steel and electric engine units. And we've got none of either. So Aquilo support 1. Uh-oh. Aquilo support 1 needs to get back to Novice. It does not have fuel to speak of. Although it does have one reactor functional, and it's got full tanks of steam. Okay, you need to add the refuel interrupt. So hopefully that won't happen again. I don't know how much that works. I should have dropped off. I have all this steel here that I should have just dropped off while we were here. Oh well, it's fine. It's not a huge deal. It'll work itself out. So, Aquilo support 2. You were actually back at Novice. What are you... Oh, you're back at Novice, just sitting here doing nothing because the science. Okay, yeah. We need this interrupt to be, let's see, not 30 seconds of inactivity, but time passed of 180 seconds. Save that interrupt. That did save, right? So I guess it'll probably finish this iteration of that interrupt before leaving, or before starting the next iteration of the interrupt, which is fine, of course. Yeah, so the problem is it's dumping off like 1 or 2 cryogenic packs every so often, and that's keeping it technically active. Alright, so yeah, now that's good. So now you go to Fulgora. And this one is just doing nothing of interest. So power is going. So down here we have our box with now 427 legendary iron plates. And Vulcanist Support 1 is the one which has been tasked with bringing those back. And it should be able to get a good chunk of them. And now we have legendary beacons and legendary power poles. Obviously, these guys are all being used, basically. But once we get our fresh supply of legendary iron plates in, then things will be a lot better. So we just sort of need to let this cook for a bit. We also need some of this stuff to actually show up. Alright, so yeah, this all works. Now, I wonder, like, how much we want to split this up, because currently we need this. We need the fresh chest supply to sort of just continue expanding down this way in order to fit properly, so we'll do something like that. And then paste this in here. Although we need to leave enough space that this beacon doesn't impact this. Alright, then that just connects up as usual. All of this goes in. And our pipes can go across. That's a horrifically messy pipeline, but it works, so who cares? Okay, now, which of you has productivity modules? Vulcanist Support 3 does. Let's send some of those down, so we can use them to build these guys. And then let's put the legendary module upgrades into those so that they actually have anything at all. We are bulldozing over a fairly large calcite patch doing this, but there's this whole giant patch over here as well. And calcite can also just be gained infinitely from space if we need it to. So this is all going and getting built. Alright, that is even more iron chests fed into this system. So now we need this selector to show up. Which one of these guys carries the selector combinators? I know it was one of you. Yeah, it was this one. And Vulcanus is set to request them, so they should eventually arrive and just work without me having to do anything. But obviously we can't connect this belt across until those are in, because that would cause problems otherwise. Alright, so now this is all going. And we can get legendary beacons in here to make these go even faster. And we can also get like legendary recyclers and everything to upgrade this even more. But for now, this is pretty solid. It seems like it is doing just dramatically better than the previous version, although the amount of iron plates that do get rejected is relatively high. So let's try and fix that. So in here, this signal here is connected to all of these guys because it's a red signal. So I think what we have to do is cut that red signal, make it a green signal, and then so that should be fine, because now this signal does it. These signals don't go anywhere else now, which means that that off by one error thing should be fixed. Alright, so let's just connect all of the green signals up. And then go in and disconnect all of the red signal versions. And hopefully we will see less inaccuracies now. So this first one can't even get its items out. That's how many it's rejecting. And this is still like a full belt's worth of iron plates, annoyingly. Now, yeah, and this is completely filled, except for like a couple of the rare items. But it's still... It's like rejecting a whole lot, though. I still don't understand why that's happening. Like, why it's giving up preemptively when it should be fine. I guess let's just yoink one copy of this, just build it down here, and just like use this to experiment with it, just figure out how it works. And I think that power pole was too far away for the Spidertron or something. Okay, so this is now all built up. And what we need to do is just get a constant combinator in here and figure out, like, where this is going wrong. So this combinator feeds into there. And let's say we have 7 iron plates. Then this receives 7 iron plates. Doesn't send anything through. So this all does nothing, and that doesn't get anything. So now, set that up to 8, and now it decides that that can run. Okay, wait, I think I might have figured it out, actually. So that is 8. Now this is 7. But then if we set this up to 8, now it resets instantly. Which does make sense, I guess. So what's happening is that the higher tier recipes are showing up and saying, hey, you can do this, and then you should reject your lower tier recipe in favor of that. Now, is there some way for me to fix that? Okay, also this, yeah, and because of that, this output belt is very cramped, which is preventing us from doing everything that we need to do with it. So let's run a second output belt up here, and then this will be filtered to be iron chests of any quality. And all of these existing ones can get that filter. And then we get these second ones, which are filtered to be iron plates of any quality. So we get these in, and we paste that across. Obviously these last couple won't really matter. Okay, so now instead of needing to filter it off at this point, we can just have it pre-filtered. So then this belt comes down and goes across to there. That connects into it, and then this just goes directly across and in there. Okay, so we have that. That's something. So this is making tier 2 chests, and it makes a bunch of them, and then it stops. Now it's making nothing. Okay, now it is depositing its tier 2 iron out. And that is still just, like, a very slow process, which uses up a whole lot of belt space. And now that it's going on a long-handled inserter, it's also very slow. So this, I think this just makes it, like, a lot worse, actually. Because, like, we just physically now can't get things out through the belts fast enough. Okay, let's chop out the supply of fresh plates. So let's see. This is currently doing tier 2s. Now, I want to see... No, it tosses them out and goes to tier 1s. But that was possibly just an ordinary mistake. Okay, so now already all of these are low, except this one, which is stuck. So why are you stuck? You have one rare iron plate in there. Now this outputs basically everything but rares. So this chooses epics. Sends that back to here, but it isn't getting done for whatever reason. So you're waiting for source items. Okay, wait, there are... Oh! Is this why? If I pop you out, now you work. Okay. I don't know... So that should never happen. That was just a problem with, like, the initial setup, right? So that should never happen. That's just, like, a unique irregularity. But now this one also has that problem. So, there are no chests down here, right? Right. Okay. So, you have... Yeah, all of you guys are good. You have enough of those to make iron chests, but you just can't put them anywhere. Okay, so let's do that, and then instead we're going to chop out the supply of fresh chests just so that the existing chests can cycle a bit more. So this is all going. And now things aren't getting stuck, but they are still outputting a massive amount of items. So we need to figure out how to prevent this from happening. We need to make them only... We need to make them only swap over if it's, like, a good idea. Okay. I have an idea, maybe? So this selector combinator does quality transfer. This one... So this just picks the highest available tier. But I don't know if that's what I want. So yeah, the problem is if we were running, you know, uncommons here, but then we suddenly get to a point where we have 8 rares, then it sends them over. And it's even worse than that because occasionally it gets confused like this. Okay. How is that in there? All of these are filtered, right? So this near belt goes into the recycling and comes out. There should be I must be going crazy, because these keep showing up in here. And I don't understand how. Like, how are they coming from? So this belt goes down here and into this row of recyclers. And then we get iron plates out. So this is all iron plates. Then this belt here is filtered to be all iron plates. And every single one of these is correctly filtered. So that's a weird thing. First of all, I don't understand how that's happening at all. And secondly, we need to convince these not to swap while they're running. So this just sends things through. So we're back to trying to figure out how to convince it not to change its mind while the thing it's looking at has 8 or greater, then it's fine. But if it's less than 8, then we want it to swap. So how do we manage that? So this just sends through whatever is greater than or equal to 8. And this then selects the highest quality of them to send forwards. But we don't want that, actually. No, but it's going to be so difficult to get it to work any other way. So, another alternative is to just constrain the loopbacks. So, like, if we have the loopback split off at various points along the line, then that would help mitigate the amount of that happening, like, at the end. Although I don't know how to do that in an elegant way. Yeah, I don't know how to do that in a way which it wouldn't be completely awful. Okay, let's just continue thinking about fixing this with combinators. So because that is like the core of the problem, is that these swap out too frequently. They're way too happy to do that, when it should only be like a last resort, basically. So we need a decider combinator at least. Might need more than this. So this gives us our signal, and then how does this work? We're back to the same problem we had at the start of the stream and at the end of last stream, which is that, like, figuring out like whether this is working and what to do about it if it is working is very complicated. Okay, so what we could do... No, that wouldn't work. I keep thinking up these ideas, and then, like, they're the same ideas that I've tried 5 times already. So this needs to get... No, that... Telling based off of this is hard, but we could just determine based off of this. So how about instead of... No, well, so what I was going to say is we could have this, instead of picking the highest quality one, pick the one which there's the most of. The problem with that is then it would just bring it to a point where they're all even, and then it would swap over every cycle anyways, which would not be helpful. So we really do just need to read, like, the last thing that it was and keep it that way until it's broken. So this one here, this is the one which filters out anything that we don't have enough to craft. And it just outputs those. Now, what we need to do is say we need to take this so that we know like how much resources are available. And then we need to take this and then check if the quality matches somehow. So you would be something like, iron plates greater than 8. Okay, how about you... let's think here. Picks the highest quality of found signals. So this is ultimately only going to be 1, because this is 1. So we can't do anything with like the amounts in here. We can't do anything clever with that. Like the problem is I'm trying to get this to work in a way which doesn't require 200 combinators per machine, and yet which also does all of the things that I want it to do. And getting both of those seems to be very difficult. So, you read ingredients. No, that wouldn't work. All we need is we just need some way. We just need some way of reading what recipe it's currently running, and if it still has the ability to run that recipe, you just keep doing it. So, let's see here. If your read contents and... Okay, how about... No, you need to read contents for it to work. So turning on read ingredients would break it. So, you need to read contents. We need to figure out the thing that you're currently doing and whether there's enough to do it. So this all just tries to feed you with a recipe which it is possible to do, right? But we also need to detect what recipe it's currently running. And I just don't know how to do that. I don't know. I think we give up on that for now. This still works, right? It's not great. It's not great, but it works from what I remember. I mean, we're getting 600 legendary iron plates, so like it's ultimately not that big of a deal. Okay, and then... So yeah, this is all basically fine. Yeah, so this all works. It's just super inelegant. And we can also connect that up to get these ones running again. And yet again, there's somehow iron chests on this belt. Just like, you guys need to stop getting iron chests on this belt. How does that keep happening? It must be they're back over here now too? No, they aren't, but they're in the filter. Okay, I have no idea how that's happening. I think it's just because this is connected up to some weird stuff. But it's fine. So this works. It's not the world's most perfect solution, but it works. So I think we're just going to leave it like that for now. And I just need like one breakthrough, which hopefully I'll be able to think about over the weekend and figure that out. But we have a mostly functional setup, which is basically fine by me. And So, Aquilo, did you ever get all this stuff that you needed? No, of course not. And were we trying to load that up onto here or onto Aquilo Support 2? I can't remember. You have a whole bunch of steel. Now you have a whole bunch of electric engine units. Yeah, I think if we send you back to Aquilo, then we'll be able to finish crafting up that second launch pad. And then Aquilo Support 2 is still stuck at Novice somehow. Why does that... How is it, like, perfectly timed? Or... Oh, it's because that this is not very smart, so it's just gonna... The amount of science here is greater than 250. So let's just set that up to like 1,000. So what's happening is that it's doing the interrupt and then immediately getting the same interrupt set again. That's what went wrong. Okay, so now this is also going properly again, so we don't need to worry about any of that. Crazy stuff is happening on Novice, as usual. All of our quality modules seem to have disappeared. They probably got picked up to get brought over to Vulcanus. And how many of these do we have? We have 4, count them, 4 legendary beacons. Let's limit that to 2 stacks, just in case anything ever comes through. Okay, and let's get all of those guys out, because they're very confusing. It looks like it's got plenty of resources when it doesn't. Okay, so yeah, we look back over here. This is still working. And it's just producing. We are up to 700 some, which is pretty good. Now we're going to eat through those 700 some in a very short period of time once this all happens, but hopefully it'll be fine. Now, have you, like, not made it at all to actually make these deliveries? Like, what's going on with that? You should have picked up some of it, right? These are set to minimum payload of 100. So I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it just takes too long for them to get launched from all the way down here. That could be, although it would be kind of weird. Alright, how is this going? Did you... Yeah, Aquilo's surface still can't launch anything until we get the rest of this stuff up there. So this is almost there, so we can drop off some of this stuff. Oh wait, no, this is almost to Gleba. Still got another leg to go. Aquilo Support 2. How are you still here? Like, genuinely, why? You're still just sitting over Novice doing nothing. Is it because you have... Oh, you still have too much science. Okay. We need to come up with some way for you to just leave and not come back. And I think I know what it is. We are going to just, instead of that being an interrupt, we will just make that a regular stop. So you are going to go to Novice until the uranium fuel is greater than 50, just so that you don't need to do any interrupts at all. And now, please get a move on. Do anything at all. There we go. So that's off. This is still cycling. And it seems, yeah. I mean, it's cycled for a while. Nothing's broken yet. So hopefully nothing's about to. And it is making a whole bunch of these. It's not just depositing all of its stuff out onto this belt. Although it is doing a non-trivial amount of that, it's mostly working. Which has to be good enough for now. Alright, so I think we're going to wrap up the stream here. So it's about the time when I normally do that. So, thanks everyone for hanging out. We've made big progress on this setup, which is still probably just too clever, but if we can make it just a little bit more clever, then it'll be brilliant. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I will see you guys on Monday, where we'll be doing more of this. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. So, if you're interested in Factorio, make sure to stop by then. I also do Satisfactory on Tuesdays and Thursdays, same time. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks, Em, for hanging out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.